What's up, guys? Welcome to Touchdown Talk, where everything and anything football goes. I'm your host, Jason, and today we have episode 5 of NFL news in 10 minutes or less. We're going to kick off right where we left off in episode 4, which is Monday night. Now, over the weekend, we didn't have an NFL news in 10 minutes or less episode because it was a longer episode. So it was our first episode of NFL Weekend Recap. So I will link that down below so you guys can go check that out if you want to. But we're going to kick off with Monday night, where we had news about Dan Snyder, and the House of Representatives Committee on Oversight and Reform remains committed to the hearing testimony from owner Dan Snyder. Now, despite Dan Snyder failing to accept the committee's subpoena, while the committee has been and remains willing to consider reasonable accommodations requested by the witness, we will not tolerate attempts to evade service of duly authorized subpoena or seek special treatment not afforded to other witnesses who testify in this manner. Now, as you can see, there are statements from both Dan Snyder's spokesperson, which is on the left side, and on the right side you have the House Oversight Committee spokesperson. So right here is Dan Snyder's, and then over here is the House Oversight Committee. So you have both testimonies there, both statements from both sides. And this is just going to continue to unravel with Dan Snyder. And until Dan Snyder testifies, until he does appear in court and they are able to settle, there's going to be statements from both sides continuing to come out until there is an obvious statement to where both sides can come together, Dan Snyder can actually testify, and this can get figured out. Because right now, Dan Snyder is not testifying, so once he is able to, then everything will be figured out. And a little bit of news not revolving the NFL entirely, but two former great running backs, Adrian Peterson and LeVeon Bell, have signed contracts for a heavyweight boxing exhibition on July 30th at the Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles, per Mike Coppinger. So, LeVeon Bell and Adrian Peterson, they're going to have a little boxing match, and just something exciting for sports fans to see. It's not your regular boxers, but if you're a football fan and you've grown up with these running backs, or if you just like boxing, then this is going to be great for you because you get to see two NFL running backs fight in a boxing match. So the two sports come together, just like we saw other athletes like Frank Gore fight. So now Peterson and LeVeon Bell, two former NFL running backs, obviously neither of them playing right now. Bell, I don't believe, is with the team, but two former running backs going to have a boxing match. So it's going to be interesting to see how that unsettles and how that unravels. Then a little bit of news on Darren Waller. Now, Waller told and he spoke about his contract, and he said he's hopeful a new deal gets done with the Raiders, but has no plans to hold out. Now, this per the All Things Covered podcast, so you guys will be able to watch what Darren Waller said. I'm going to put that right here for you guys, so you guys can hear what he had to say.
The pay scale, Darren, you're getting $7 million. $7 million. Are you hopeful that you can get a deserving pay raise before the start of the season?
I am hopeful, yeah. But I also don't, want to make an expectation of people control over them, and then, have a resentment or something form in that. I just try to focus on how I'm showing up for the team and know that, I trust God's timing in all things. That's what's helped my life get back on track. And, but yeah, I'm hopeful that something does get done and, things are in the works. But while those things are happening, I'm going to continue to work and make sure that I show up prepared and that I have the right attitude.
When I look at the pay scale, Darren.
Now, after hearing that, it does seem like Waller wants to be with the Raiders 100%. So it's going to be really cool to see the contract he gets, especially with some of the contract details with tight ends in the league. We know how underpaid guys like Travis Kelce are. So Waller being one of those top 3-5 tight ends in the league, I do believe he's number 3 right now in the NFL. So Waller ranked within the top 5, depending on whose list he's on. I think he deserves a big contract, just like Kittle and Kelce when it's their time to get paid. Now, more news on Baker Mayfield from Tuesday is that he talked about and answered the question that everyone wants to know, and that is, if Deshaun Watson is suspended, is he willing to play for the Cleveland Browns? And he said, and I quote, "No, I think for that to happen, there would have to be some reaching out, but we're ready to move on, I think." Both sides. So Baker Mayfield, obviously, I'm going to play the video, guys, for you so you could hear what he has to say. I'll play the whole video here for you guys. And with Baker Mayfield...
Process right now for you, just, I mean, is it a little unfair that you still don't kind of know where you're going or what's going to be happening?
I think I got frustrated with it not happening before, like mini camp and all those things, but that's the stuff that's out of my control, and so, let those things happen and fall into place. And so right now I'm just controlling what I can and enjoying this.
A lot of people that know you know, kind of what you're about and your personality, and they're curious, could Baker Mayfield ever play again for the Browns if that
I think it's been pretty obvious the mutual decision on both sides is to move on. I'm thankful for my 4 years in Cleveland. There's a lot of ups and downs and a ton of learning experiences that I'll forever keep with me. Teammates and friends and relationships that I'll have for a lifetime. And just flew in last night from East Lansing, Michigan for Drew Stanton, who's my mentor. He was a quarterback there in Cleveland when I got drafted. And just relationships like that, you're just so thankful for. So, I mean, the support staff in Cleveland, the people of Cleveland, it's a great sports town. So I'm thankful for it. And there's no resentment towards the city of Cleveland by any means.
But I think a lot of people think if they didn't have a quarterback for the next year, would there be any chance of reconciliation there?
No, I think for that to happen, there would have to be some reaching out, but we're ready to move on, I think, on both sides.
It's obviously not going to work, and they're going to have to trade him because it's going to be a waste of money and time for both sides if Baker Mayfield does tend to hold out and won't play for the Browns, which it looks like it's going in that direction. So I think it would be in Cleveland's best interest, as well as Baker Mayfield, to just trade him, send him off somewhere. That way they don't have to pay the entire $18 million, but they can pay around $13, $14 if a team will be willing to pay that. And that video is per Kerry Murdoch on Twitter. You can go check it out. I'll put his Twitter right here so you guys can see where I got that from. And then big news, I want to give a huge congratulations to Terry McLaurin and the Washington Commanders. Terry McLaurin agreed to a 3-year deal worth up to $71 million with $23.3 guaranteed a year. That is per Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network. Terry McLaurin, one of the best young receivers in the NFL. I posted this comparison between him, Debo, DK Metcalf. So as you can see, A.J. Brown and all of those 4 guys, they've really been competing. And for Terry McLaurin to wait this long, he's played with so many different quarterbacks, so many different guys on that team, and he's been the only constant for their offense, the only guy that's been able to stay on the field and do what he does. And added on to that, the leadership he brings on and off the field, 100% needed to get Terry McLaurin signed. As I spoke in previous videos, Terry McLaurin is a huge part of that team. Terry McLaurin is a huge asset to the Commanders, and Terry McLaurin needs to be on that team for them to have any success in the NFL going forward. Then on Wednesday, we had news from Miles Sanders, Justin Herbert, and Trevor Lawrence, all speaking on their respective teams. Now, Miles Sanders said, and I quote, "We'll all feel like we're on an all-star team. So we feel great, we feel unstoppable. I'm not going to lie, the vibes are great, always have been. Head coach Nick Sirianni is doing a great job just keeping the vibes right. The chemistry good. We compete a lot in practice, but we've got to see. It's going to come down to camp, taking it day by day, putting everything together." Now, this is per Cody Benjamin, who Sanders told from CBS. So, Miles Sanders and the Eagles confident in their team, confident in each other, in what they can do. So, obviously, that team is going to be a sneaky team this year. Last year, they made it right into the playoffs with Jalen Hurts. And now this year, Jalen Hurts not only has guys like Dallas Goedert, Devonta Smith, and Quez Watkins from last year, but he also has A.J. Brown. Then at the running back, you have Kenneth Gainwell, who's a great player. He was in his rookie year last year, now going into his sophomore year, kind of an underrated running back. And then Miles Sanders, of course, at the running back position. So 2 running backs, both starting caliber, if, they can break out, and if Kenneth Gainwell can be what I think he can be, which I think he can be a starter in the league, and I think he'll compete for that number 1 spot with Miles Sanders. And then you have 2 top wide receiver ones. You have Quez Watkins, who's a great speedster, and Dallas Goedert on that offense. And then obviously talking about it being an all-star team in Philly, you have guys on that defense that you brought in. Not only the guys and the veterans like Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham, but you have guys like last year where they had Hargrave come out of nowhere. You guys have Josh Sweat over there. And then at linebacker, they brought in Hassan Reddick off the edge. They brought in Kazir White. They drafted Jordan Davis at tackle. They drafted more players. And then on top of that, they brought in James Bradbury. So a phenomenal offseason and draft for the Philadelphia Eagles. And what they're going to do for this team is going to be something special to watch. And I do feel that the Eagles are a playoff team. I feel like they will win the NFC East. And it does seem like they have the confidence in the locker room to do so. Now next, Justin Herbert spoke about the Chargers and their competitive style and how they need to be consistent to win. Now, Justin Herbert said it's all about consistency. We have to put together a full season for us to play football that we want to. We've definitely added some guys on defense, picked up a few guys on offense, and had a great offseason so far. As soon as the season comes, we understand it's all about execution and being sharp week in and week out, never looking ahead, and making sure we're doing everything we can to give ourselves a shot on Sundays. Now, Justin Herbert obviously talking about the Chargers, and the Chargers a little bit like the Eagles with what they did in the offseason. They brought in J.C. Jackson, who's one of the best corners in the league. They brought in Khalil Mack, who's a dominant guy on the edge. And then with the offense that they have, the Chargers are going to compete, and I do think that the Chargers win the AFC West. Now, the last bit of news here, as we're coming into that 10-minute mark, is that Jacksonville Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence praised Doug Peterson. He said, and I quote, "We're building towards something special. It's been great just the way Doug interacts with the team, the way he leads. I think personality-wise, we're similar. We get along well. Obviously, he played quarterback. He's won a Super Bowl as a player and a coach, so he's important to have in a leader like that. And just the energy he's brought in the building has been awesome." Now, Cody Bellinger, this is per him again, just like Miles Sanders. And right after the 10-minute mark, it's a little bit over the 10-minute mark, but last bit of news here with Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars is that I do believe that they are a year or two away from competing. They lost DJ Chark on that offense, but they do have some key guys on that team. They signed Christian Kirk. They have a two-headed running back who's going to be great with Robinson and Etienne, but I do feel that they're a year or two away, and that just comes in because of how young they are. They're just starting out, and it's the first year where they're together with Lawrence and Peterson. I do love Peterson as a coach. I think he's going to fit great with the Jaguars, but I do think they're a year or two away. Now, that is going to be it for this episode of NFL News in under 10 minutes. Now, this episode just ran a little bit late. I think it was just around 10-minute, 30-second mark. But with the videos added onto it, it's a bit longer, a couple minutes longer with the added videos from Waller and Baker. So if you guys did enjoy this, next episode will be on Friday, and that will be episode 6 of NFL News in 10 minutes or less.